Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. Tonight, it's the debate for the Democratic primary in the 77th Assembly District that includes the Bronx neighborhoods of Claremont, Concourse, Highbridge, Mount Eden, and Mar. Tonight's program is presented in partnership with the League of Women Voters of the City of New York. It is a nonpartisan political organization that advocates for informed and active participation in government and works to increase understanding of major public policy issues. Primary day is Tuesday, June 25th. The deadline to submit an application for voter registration is Saturday, June 15th, and the early voting period begins Saturday, June 15th through Sunday, June 23rd. For more information, including deadlines for absentee ballots, visit vote.nyc. Now let's meet the candidates. There are two candidates on the ballot. The incumbent is Landon Dace. Nice to see you, Mr. Dace. He was a deputy director of the Police Athletic League and a former member of Community Board 4. The challenger is Leonardo Coelho, the Bronx Borough Director for the Mayor's Office, former Chief of Staff for Assembly Member Udelka Tapia, and he served as the president of the Uptown Democratic Club. Candidates, nice to have you with us. Thanks for joining us in tonight's debate. I will direct a question to one candidate. That candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. Then the opposing candidate will also have 90 seconds to respond. The moderator, that's me, reserves the right to ask follow-up questions and to allow for rebuttals and dialogue. Please note that after the initial answers from each candidate, no statement can be longer than 30 seconds. Also, please note there'll be no opening statements, but at the end of the program, each candidate will have 1 minute to offer a concluding comment. One note, before we begin, the questions on tonight's program include those submitted by the candidates themselves. So nice to see you, gentlemen, and by prior agreement, Mr. Dace, you'll get the first question.
Thank you.
Both of you have had varied experience in government and public service. As we just mentioned some of it, there's a lot more. Talk about any one of your experiences, positions you've held, or individual incidents that would make voters think that you are the better candidate for this race.
Thank you, Gary. First and foremost, Lennox and Lexington, I love you. Those are my sons. My first job is being a father. Everything I do, everything I work on, everything I really put my passion into is making the community I live in, where I work in, better. Because I want to make sure that the 77th District is better for my sons, which is also better for your children. The best experience I have is the fact that I am the incumbent and the sitting assembly member. I have experience prior as a lawyer, working on legislation, writing bills, understanding regulations, the things that can impact you as a neighbor and a community member in the 77. But if you really want to know what makes me different and what sets me apart from my opponent, is what happened earlier today. I sat down with Governor Hochul, and after a nice conversation, she is matching $1 million, which I'm bringing to other schools, matching my $1 million grants to 10 different schools across the district. One, this is providing STEM, scientific, technology, and engineering products to the children of our district. Because the reality is, if we do not provide the proper training for our kids, if we don't have a legislator who understands how to ensure those things for our children, for our community, the 77th is going to struggle. I am the best candidate for this job because I know how to get things done, and that is why I'm hoping for your support.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Coelho, your thoughts about your experience and your background, and maybe there's one experience that is more important than others. What do you think?
Well, thank you, Gary. That is probably the perfect question to start out. It shows that you're a veteran at what you do here and stuff.
I guess.
So yeah, Leonardo Coelho, candidato del Distrito 77. The most important thing that I want to highlight is my personal and professional background that separates me from my candidate here, my opposition. So first, let's start with the professional background. The most important thing is that first, I had the experience in corporate, so I have the business background. But after that, I transitioned into the nonprofit and education sector, where with some of the best organizations that were focused on community work. The organizations like Harlem Children's Zone, Eastside House Settlement, and the Children's Aid Society. These are organizations that have over 350 years of working in the community, and that's where I honed in the work that I've done in the community. After that, I transitioned over to work for Mayor Adams at the community department as the Bronx director for here, the borough. With that, I was the face of the mayor's office in the community, figured out all the things that I had to do to bridge over the community to city, and then also some experience as the chief of staff from Udelka's office. So the most important thing is to bring in all those type of experiences together: city, state, nonprofit, education. All those things are super important. And of course, the one thing that I'm super highlighted about: husband and father. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. The next question for you, Mr. Coelho. For a range of reasons, the need for affordable housing is chronic all over the city, especially in the borough of the Bronx. Here's a two-part question, and you'll each get a chance at it. How has the state legislature done in helping push the envelope forward as regards affordable housing? And do you see the mayor's proposal for the city of Yes as a solution to the problem, whereas many people are saying it is part of the problem or it's going to be part of the problem? Mr. Coelho, your thoughts first.
Thank you for the question. Perfect question as well, too, Gary. Being the face of the mayor, I was intricately had knowledge about the city of Yes. And what I tell folks is that the city of Yes is a fantastic start. Like all legislation and all ideas, nothing is perfect from the beginning. Yes, there's probably ways that we could make things better, but as we now have it in place, we can now regroup, go to the table, and find ways to do it better. Specifically, your question, Gary, I think that the state has not done enough as far as putting funding towards the development here in the Bronx or in the city altogether and stuff. So, that's one of the main things that I want to make sure to go up to Albany and fight for. But also understand there's also another side of that coin. There's also the developers as well, too. And understanding that those individuals as well, too, are folks that need a voice, and we need to be able to partner with the ones in development that are good for our community. And you know what? Again, experience. I'm a small owner as well, too, of a small 3-level building. And so I understand the challenges that come from both ends of owning and also having tenants as well, too.
Let me just ask a follow-up. We'll give you 30 seconds for it. You said that it's a work in progress and that there are fixes that might be needed to be done. Do you have a thought on what any one of those fixes might be?
I just think maybe we should go a little further with some of the zoning aspects and stuff. So I think when we can sit down and really figure those things out, I think we can push the envelope just a little more. I think that the way that it was crafted had to be crafted in order to get the approval of the bodies that were needed. But I think we could push a little further in some of the zoning aspects as well, too.
Okay, Mr. Diaz?
Well, if my opponent was well versed on the situation, he would know we just passed 485X, which is ensuring that we have affordable housing within the district. In addition to that, we have put, as in the legislature, money for home ownership that's going to directly impact Bronx residents, because we want to make sure those who live here can stay here. And home ownership is a key aspect. Now, from my personal experience, as someone who has a background in construction management, also as a board member from HCCI and Mid-Bronx Desperados, I have experience of helping build over 1,300 units of affordable housing right here in the borough. That is a major distinction between myself and the opponent. In addition to that, he's right. He is a homeowner in the Bronx, not in our district. I am a homeowner in our district. I'm your neighbor, and a lot of people know this because we helped put in safer measures in their neighborhood, making sure the community block association organized together. Because the one thing we need beyond having affordable housing is community, and making sure that together we're working together to make our community cleaner and safer. Lastly, we also put in good cause eviction, protecting more residents from our community to make sure they can stay within their homes. Additionally, we want to make sure that there's funding in NYCHA, over $140 million going to NYCHA, but specifically in our district, Cedric Houses is getting $6.2 million in renovations, which is also including a workforce development center. At the end of the day, I'm the clear candidate when it comes to affordable housing in your district.
Mr. Coelho, did you want to follow up?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, there's a lot of ways.
That's 30 seconds.
30
for you.
seconds. Okay, yeah. You can memorize legislation as much as possible, but you also have to be from the borough, right? So my opponent ran and lost 2 races in Harlem and is considered new to this borough. So just bear that in mind, that you do need to have some roots in the borough to have a true understanding and not just memorizing legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Dace, you can follow up.
Well, absolutely. First off, your first job as a legislature is to remind and know what legislation you pass and what you write and what you do. If you don't do that, you're not doing your job. Second, I've been a homeowner in the community for 8 years. My children have only known what is Highbridge in the Bronx. My wife grew up after she immigrated from San Pedro Macorís in Dominican Republic and Rio Grande in Puerto Rico to Highbridge on Nelson Avenue. My family is rooted. My mother-in-law, my grandmother-in-law, my nephew, my sister live in the district. My wife's on Community Board 4. We are embedded in the district. Also, I'm a youth coach in the district. Thank you.
Let's just keep going on this community thing, because I think it's
Sure.
very important. One of the things that characterizes the district is the community. So I guess it's for you, Mr. Dace. Let's continue on that. Who knows this community better, and what do you see in this community that helps you feel like you can continue to lead it?
I think the first plus is that I've been coming to the community for many years when me and my wife started dating over 15 years ago. First met her freshman year when she was at Cornell University. She went to Sacred Heart right there off of in the Highbridge area. She went to Aquinas High School, and I also went to high school in the Bronx. But the most important thing is the Bronx is changing. Just like a lot of people in New York, people move. We have a lot of people come from Washington Heights. We have a lot of people from Harlem that have moved from Manhattan into the Bronx. But more importantly, no matter what district I've ever lived in my entire life, I always do work in the community. That is why the community knows me more than they know Leonardo. I'm a baseball coach in the community. I started the housing association on my block. We do block cleanups, not because I wanted to be elected or be an elected official, but because as a homeowner in the area, I've been working day and night to make the community better. The reality is the positive stuff I did in the community before I was ever an elected official allowed me to learn what is going on in the 77. And even when I won the Pro Bono Attorney of the Year award, it was for my work helping youth from the Bronx and Harlem. I'm a difference maker. I'm someone who understands the pulse of the people in the community. I live in the community, and there's a big difference between myself and my opponent.
Let me just ask you one aspect of that. And Mr. Coelho spoke Spanish a few moments ago. You don't speak Spanish. Obviously, a large part of the population is Hispanic.
That's true.
Is that a problem for you? Is that getting in the way?
One, I have Felix, my chief of staff, whose family comes from Dominican. He's from the Dominican Republic. My wife also, who's a surrogate who speaks Spanish, is Dominican. My mother-in-law. So my ability to communicate is there. At the end of the day, it's about what I do for the people because they have the same issues: housing, education. My job is to bring the money and resources to the community, and my constituent services speak multiple languages because we don't just have Spanish and English. We have French, Hawassa, Arabic. We have multiple languages within our community.
Mr. Coelho, go ahead. First thing about the community, and we can follow
Well,
up
first
as well.
let me fact check my opponent here, saying that the community knows him more than it knows me, where he won a special election with hardly any votes and stuff like that. So we'll set that aside and just fact check that later. But as far as being known of the community, I also want to add on that, I've been on the front lines of the education, nonprofit, any type of emergency that's happening in our borough. For the last year and a half as the mayor's office, I was there. When the building collapsed in our district, I was the first one on site when it came to bringing all type of services, helping the tenants, coordinating with other agencies to make sure that everything that there was being taken care of, and the follow-up behind that. And unfortunately, for my opponent here, those individuals that he mentioned are not the elected officials. Unfortunately, they're not the ones in Albany. You're going to have to be the one in Albany talking and having conversations about a large percentage of your district that you cannot communicate with, that you can't sit at the kitchen table with and have a discussion and talk about what is it that's on their minds and what's happening. Things get lost in translation, Assemblyman. So sometimes you have to be able to do that communication. I can do that in many languages and be able to do that and have been doing that for a very long time because I as well am a Bronx person, went to school here and worked. As a matter of fact, your own family, your sister-in-law's son went to my school and I was their school administrator. So I'm very well known.
Let me just follow up,
Yes.
and then I'll give you the opportunity. You mentioned that you worked for the mayor and you've been involved with Mayor Adams. Is that a kind of a double-edged sword because it makes you harder to criticize something that Mayor Adams might
No,
do?
absolutely
or
not.
something like the city of Yes?
No,
for
absolutely
example?
not. I was given this title of Bronx Director because of my connection to the community, because the mayor values, my connection to my community. And as any great leader, he's open to hearing what the community is saying, even if it's something that is against what he's going, and in my opinion as well too.
You wanted to say something, Mr.
Yes.
Dace?
Again, my opponent is going with divisive.
We'll give you the final word because you had the question, so then we'll go from there.
My opponent, again, is going with divisive nature that I'm against, where I build bridges and I build a collaborative political nature which goes across all communities. The simple fact, yes, I am not fluent in Spanish, but I do understand the culture. My family is a part of the culture. But then again, he's saying, what happens if you speak French? Are you now a person that can't serve the community? It's not necessarily about what languages you speak, it's about what do you do? How do you help the people in your community? And he just said, your family, I've helped your family, or I worked with your family. That again demonstrates that I've been in the community. So that's just divisiveness where I build bridges.
Thank you. Let's just talk about a very fundamental concept, not only in your district, but in many districts in the Bronx. The 77th Assembly District, this is for you, Mr. Coelho, you get it first, is one of the state's poorest districts. How do we build wealth? How do we turn poverty into stability? Can an assembly member actually affect that? And if so, of course, how?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important aspects, right? Especially in, underserved communities, trying to figure out ways where we can figure out how do we help underserved people start to build wealth, because ultimately that's the future. That's the way that our generations need to be going in that direction. Are there ways? I'm sure there is. There's ways to pass legislation that we can help families be able to help them with their bottom dollar, being able to have them invest on themselves, giving them education around how do you invest money in a way that you can pass it down generationally. One of the biggest staples of generational wealth was owning my home 20 years ago. 20 years ago. So I'm very rooted in the community. The equity that I have in my home is something that's going to be passed down to my children, a cornerstone of finance. And those are the things that we got to start looking. How do we make more people in our community owners and have them get more knowledge about finances? Thank
you very much, Mr. Dace.
Well, first and foremost, we passed the Family Tax Credit Act, which is about $370 million, which is putting money directly into the families in our community. Second, and the top, we need to teach financial literacy in our schools, and I'm also making a big push towards workforce development. That is why in our district at Sedgwick Houses, we are building with DC 37 and Renaissance a workforce development center that is creating good union jobs with pensions, benefits, more than prevailing wage, because affordable housing means nothing if you don't have a job that can afford it. And that's another big difference between myself and my opponent. I have the backing of DC 37, 1199, TW 100, 32BJ, DC 37, his very own union. Why? Because they know I'm the pro-union candidate. If you look just at our literature, my literature has the union bug on it, his does not. I'm the pro-union candidate because I know good union jobs are gonna help those get to the good middle class, working middle class, to ensure that they can stay in our community. Lastly though, we really gotta figure out, every kid is not gonna go to college. That is why I got the $1 million grants to our schools for STEM and putting a big push for vocational training. There are some really good jobs out there, and we have some amazingly talented kids and young people within our community, and teaching them financial literacy and vocational training will help provide them for the future and ensure they can stay in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Coelho, did you want to
Yeah, I just want to, I want to make sure that we're not cheating the community and making sure that we're fact checking. So you're not bringing that program to Sedgwick. That program has been there. David Hiraldo, that's there, is a good friend of mine. I know the program that he put there. He also has one on the east side in Mahan as well too. So that program, you're not bringing it there. That program has been there. So I just want to make sure that we're always fact checking and making sure that we're being honest with the community.
So let's fact check that real
30
quick.
seconds.
Thank you. So there was an initial allocation, but it got stopped, and I had to clear it up with Nitro. And if you want to talk to Henry from DC 37, he will fact check that for you, because they couldn't do the allocation because the roof had already been done 5 years ago. So we had to do a budget reallocation this year, approved by the Ways and Means Committee, to ensure the program went on. So the initial allocation did not occur underneath my watch, but I executed to make sure it will happen, again, helping jobs in the 77th, helping those in our community. And that's what's called a difference maker.
The next question for you, Mr. Dace. All you have to do is open up a newspaper and see what one of the leading stories in New York City is right now, and that's congestion pricing and our transportation system. So, number one, are you in favor of congestion pricing? And then what do you think of the governor's 11th hour move to delay its implementation? Some people say it's for political reasons. And then really the bottom line, how should the MTA deal with now what is a multi-billion-dollar shortfall?
We were definitely caught off guard as the legislature last minute. I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday as that session was ending. The reality is $15 was just too damn high. And I think that was hurting people. And as much as I want to help with the congestion issue, because I think we'll both agree congestion is an issue in Manhattan. Also in our district, we have the Cross Bronx, which is one of the, with a high polluting facility. We're going to be working on the capping.
Really? Is that congested?
and I live right by there. I live right between the Cross Bronx and I-87 in Highbridge. So I see it literally from my back window. But the reality is we have a lot of drivers. We have a lot of Uber drivers in the 77th, and he has a lot in his district in the 79th. We have a lot of people that work in hotels and hospitals, like, NISNA members, 1199 members, DC 37 members who are endorsing me and work in our community, live in our community, but work in those areas. So I think she did the right thing. But we also have to make sure that we figure out a capital raise because it will negatively impact our district. For example, 167th Street in Grand Concourse, we were supposed to get an upgrade there. So now we have to figure out money for that. So I appreciate what the governor did. I think we need to find a hybrid, but we also need to make sure we raise the capital to ensure we have the MTA capital improvements. Because if we want people not to drive, we have to make sure that the MTA, the subway system, the bus systems are properly maintained, are upgraded, and safe.
Mr. Coelho, your thoughts?
Yeah, Gary, I commend the governor for at least taking a step back. And if something didn't look right or wasn't being rolled out properly, I commend her on taking a step back and bringing folks to the table if they have to get this figured out properly. Because to be honest with you, I'm glad that it's not a reflection of the work that was done, let's say, with the cannabis industry. Unfortunately, the cannabis industry, the way it was kind of rolled out on the state's level, really did a negative impact on our communities. And unfortunately, my opponent was part of that sector, the cannabis sector, where he did do a lot of work with the cannabis community. And unfortunately, a lot of individuals made a lot of money and were impacted in a positive way. But our communities suffered with the illegal smoke shops and the gray market of marijuana. And unfortunately, it was a bad rollout. And the history that my opponent has with that, shows it. It was a difficult situation, and I'm glad that at least they're taking a step back when it comes to the congestion pricing and doing it the right way.
I'm sure you want to respond to that.
So absolutely. So one, I did not pass the MRTA, but I did work in the cannabis industry because why? 95% of all arrests of cannabis was of Black and Latino people. That was our community. If not the 77th, even in his district in the 79th or in Washington Heights and Harlem, it was negatively impacting putting young kids of color in jail. In addition to that, we did the smoke out bill, which stopped and closed all the illegal shops. But one thing I will say for New York, we have the most cannabis licenses owned by people of color, including in the Bronx, Dominican owned and Black owned. We have the most in the country. So we can't get rid of social equity. We did the right thing.
Did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say,
this will be it, and then we'll do one final question.
I hear you. I think it was important for legislation like that to be passed and try to undo some of the issues that we had in the past. But to be honest with you, it created a whole other issue. I dealt with the community on all levels, community boards, everyone. The atmosphere around all of these smoke shops, it really thrust our communities into a dark place, and there was a lot of things that did not go well. And unfortunately, your work in the cannabis community really led to a lot of
almost
that right
out of time. Very quick.
Be brief. The city was in charge of shutting down the illegal shops, and that's where you failed.
Okay.
You represented the mayor. Your job was to shut them down.
Again,
sheriff's office.
Right. Also, we got to think about the actual legislation that was passed. Right. At the end of the day, it was very difficult for the mayor to be able to do anything to shut those down until the Smoke Out Act came, which in turn you signed on to, but it was actually by Assemblymember Raj Kumar that put it. So again, let's fact check that as well.
Thank you for saying that I helped to shut it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have gotten to the point in the program where we'll give you each a chance for closing statements. I and all the people who are watching really appreciate both of your passion for doing this. Mr. Diaz, you get 60 seconds.
Being the assembly member for the 77th has been one of my greatest honors. It's nothing more than I like seeing at my baseball practice where I coach, where the young boys and girls on my team are so proud to see my mailings and say, oh, that's my coach, that's my coach. I think about Rodrigo, who's playing third base with my son, who wanted me to come to his school at PS 55-5 and say for career day and talk to his classmates. Because like, hey, he's my coach, but he's also an elected official. I also think about the bills that we have passed that is making a difference in our community. We are really making a difference here. The money, the $100,000 per school in 10 schools is gonna make a difference. The governor's seeing the hard work I'm doing, matching me with $1 million. I'm a difference maker. Additionally, I've built a broad coalition, which is Dominican, Puerto Rican, West African, African American, not the divisive nature that is going on the other with my opponent. That is why Senator Sepulveda, Senator Serrano, former Congressman Serrano, City Council Althea Stevens, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson have all endorsed me and behind me because they know I'm a hard worker that's making a difference for you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coelho, you get the final statement of the whole program.
Thank you, Gary. I'm going to take 2 seconds to just say congratulations on your 95th debate.
That's actually true. Thank you so much.
I just want to say that. Community, I'm here because of you. You all told me back around January and February, Leo, we want you to go out and represent us. This is the opportunity that we've been looking for. We don't want folks putting in our leaders for us. We don't want folks bringing other leaders from other communities who haven't done anything and failed in other communities to come be our leaders over here now. I heard you. I'm here. And I have the endorsement of a wide range of a rainbow coalition as well, too. We have Congressman Adriano Espaillat que vamos. We also have Bertha Lewis, one of the most top activists that our city has ever heard, all backing me. We're about this. Gracias, familia. Thank you. Dios le bendiga.
Thank you both candidates. While you might not agree on everything, I know you all will agree with me and the people at the League of Women Voters of New York City that every eligible voter should vote on June 25th. For more information, you can visit vote.nyc. And we also want to thank our partners, the League of Women Voters of the City of New York. For more information, please call the League at 212-725-3541. Again, please make sure to vote on June 25th. Next week, the debate for the 82nd Assembly District. We'll see you then. Good night.